On July the 31st, 2025 in Kerrville, Texas, a special legislative session was held to review the local government's response to the devastating flash flood on July the 4th. The disaster claimed the lives of more than 130 people, making it one of the deadliest floods in the United States in decades. Beyond addressing the personal accountability of the officials, the hearing also raised critical questions about the warning system and the capacity for emergency coordination. Many voices from the community expressed not only their grief, but also deep skepticism and disappointment. More than ever, Texas is facing the urgent challenge of ensuring that such a tragedy is never repeated.
On July 31st, Texas state legislators held a special legislative session in Kerrville to review local officials' response to the catastrophic flash floods that killed more than 130 people in the Hill Country earlier that month. Kerr County Emergency Management Coordinator William B. Thomas IV testified about his actions during the July 4th flood. Thomas explained that he had been ill and was not working when the disaster struck. At the same time, he also immediately reported to the sheriff's office at around 5:30 after being alerted.
The emergency management coordinator for Kerr County in the city of Ingram since 2015, and I report directly to the sheriff and the county judge while operating out of the sheriff's office. Since moving to this region in 2010, I have focused on strengthening emergency response across Kerr County's 1,100 square miles. As EMC, I coordinate emergency response and all hazards response planning across unincorporated Kerr County and its 2 cities. I helped with the integration of the iPause system into our Code Red public warning system. iPause enables automated alerts from the National Weather Service to be broadcast directly to all cell phones. This system has proven essential for a rural county with the highest seasonal population and no 24/7 staffed operations center. During the July 4th flood, I want to directly address the questions about my whereabouts that night. On July the 2nd, I worked a full day despite not feeling well. That day included a fire chief's meeting where no concerns were raised and no indications of elevated weather risk were noted beyond what is typical for this region during the summer. I returned home around 8:45 p.m. with my symptoms worsening. I had already requested and been approved for personal time off on July the 3rd to fulfill a commitment to my elderly father. However, due to my progressing illness, I remained home to recover. I stayed in bed throughout July the 3rd and did not participate in the regularly scheduled 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. Texas Emergency Management Coordination Center coordination calls. These calls are routinely followed by detailed written summaries which were distributed to me and other county leadership, ensuring that the flow of situational updates remained uninterrupted in my absence. Briefly woke around 2 p.m. when there was no local rainfall or indication of elevated risk and returned to rest. I was awakened around 5:30 a.m. on July the 4th by my wife following a call from the City of Kerrville EMC, Jeremy Hughes, requesting that I mobilize. I reported immediately to the sheriff's office. There was no visible flooding on my drive into the office, but it quickly became clear that the situation was escalating. By approximately 6 a.m., I was actively coordinating our county's response in close contact with the sheriff, the Emergency Operations Center, and Mr. Hughes, working together under rapidly changing and difficult conditions. Our first responders mobilized without hesitation. The majority of them are volunteers, neighbors, business owners, and community members who serve without pay. To those who ask, what would you have done differently? The honest answer is that, based on the data we had at the time, there was no clear indicator that a catastrophic flood was imminent. The rain fell in remote areas with limited gauge data. Forecasts were not materially different from past events that did not result in flooding. The situation evolved faster than anyone could have predicted.
But clearly, the question would be not to be critical, but to learn from this incident. The 3 guys in Kerr County who were responsible for sounding the alarm were effectively unavailable.
Kerr County Judge Rob Kelly also faced intense scrutiny for being absent during the initial emergency response. Kelly said that he had been at a lakeside house preparing for a family gathering when the flood occurred. He added that nothing unusual had happened on July 3rd, and he had not received any extreme weather warnings.
As county judge, I serve as the head of the emergency management and preside over the county commissioner's court. Like many in our county, my family has built our life along the Guadalupe River. I offer with transparency because they do not know how this county is or how the river behaves. My wife was at home during the early hours of July 4th while I was at our lake house preparing for a family gathering. On the afternoon and evening of July 3rd, nothing felt out of the ordinary in Kerr County. We received no alerts suggesting an extreme weather event was imminent. For context, we received hundreds of alerts during the summer. This past July, we had over 80. I quickly gathered my things and contacted our emergency management coordinator, Deb Thomas, who was en route to the sheriff's office. Together, we agreed to the disaster declaration, which went into effect verbally, and I signed when I got back to town.
Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick harshly criticized Kelly's absence. Patrick also emphasized the severity of the situation.
I say this with a heavy heart because none of us want to point fingers, but I was kind of in the middle of it on day one. And since day one, I've been to a number of the funerals. I went to the church and spoke to the families and gave the families my cell number a few days later and said, call me. I've gotten to know these people, and I think I have to make this point on behalf of them. Judge Kelly, I never saw you on day one. I came here from Austin. In this room, I talked to the sheriff multiple times, Sheriff. I talked to the mayor multiple times. We had a meeting when we got here. Governor Youngkin was here. I was here. The mayor was here. Everyone was here.
Then I wasn't. Then I wasn't.
And you were not. You were not. And I asked the question, where's the county judge? I have covered multiple emergencies in my 10 years as lieutenant governor. This is about as bad of a day as you can have, and I've had a lot of bad days because we didn't just lose people. We didn't know where people were. I don't know where you were on day one on July 4th, but you should have been here. You should have been here directing that response. That's your responsibility. And Charles Swartner asked you the question. I want to set the record straight. I'm not pointing a finger. I'm not blaming you. I just want to set the record straight. Everyone was here that day working their ass off, and you were nowhere to be found.
Many residents affected by the flooding testified before the committee, with several saying they felt abandoned by the city, county, and state authorities.
In Kerr County before next summer. To search for those who are still lost.
So the alarms work. Europeans have alarms. Canadians have alarms. Comfort, Texas, which is right over the county line, has alarms. We don't have alarms. We had the chance to have alarms. The research had been done and the money was offered. But I think the conservative aspect of our commissioners, they didn't want that federal money. And they turned it away. The UGRA, the Upper Guadalupe River Authority, also involved in kind of a vague situation of we didn't want their money, or we couldn't take it because we would have to do something else. So we could have, we might not have saved 108 people, but we might have saved 92 or 61 or 41. So we would have had many, many fewer deaths, yeah.
But the heartbreak, the frustration, the devastation, the loss of life, that in my opinion was needless. But I think if we can learn and support our Texans and make sure that we hold our representatives accountable to fix what's wrong, because I don't think this was a necessary end, in my opinion.
230 calls from 0500 to 0600. I've included a chart showing the call volume, and I apologetically checking known low water crossings throughout the city with none reported. conditions, our team saved countless lives, managed logistics under extreme duress, and maintained continuity of safety. Our preparedness paid off. Structures built to our standards were elevated, engineered, and code compliant.
I'm not seeing the type of accountability that we deserve. I'm not seeing the type of transparency that we deserve. I'm seeing a lot of pointing fingers and fall guys, and I think that's where the issue is, and that's what needs to be investigated.
Appreciate the opportunity to collaborate with you on meaningful advancements in flood prediction and flood mitigation. What UGR has done to support flood warning and flood mitigation projects.
You are here today, and we're asking you for help. Help came from the state of Texas, help came from the United States, and help came from around the world.
When you're deeply entrenched in volunteering and helping and you're surrounded, you're not really giving yourself time to recover from trauma. And it's extremely important because we're not going to be able to sit in here and talk about how to mitigate the damages and avoid more lives being lost in the next flood if we can't think clearly while we're going through this flood. And this is a long haul experience where people are going to have trauma for a long time, and this is the way that it works for me.
The special session underscored ongoing questions about the adequacy of local emergency response systems and officials' preparedness for extreme weather events. The July 4th flash flood sent a wall of water rushing down the Guadalupe River, devastating campgrounds and holiday gatherings. The soaring death toll made it one of the deadliest flooding events in the United States in decades. The disaster raised concerns about the lack of flash flood sirens in Kerr County and staffing cuts at National Weather Service offices, which may have hindered forecasting and warning capabilities.